What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are reacting to what have the Americans ever done for us? We
Oh,
gonna find out what the Americans have done for the world even
yeah, okay.
before we get into it.
Make sure you smash the subscribe and follow button. Hype up this video.
I do believe Americans are known to be quite innovative. They created quite a few things,
Yes.
such as...
The internet.
Oh, that was one. I wasn't going to say that one, but yes.
Microsoft. Microsoft is internet, right?
No, but Microsoft is a company. That's not... Yeah, they created the internet.
Okay.
They also created tea bags to hold tea in.
I did not know that. And yet the Brits love their tea. Very fascinating.
Very innovative.
Yeah, very.
Previously been asked, what have the Romans ever done for us? But what about the Americans? What have they done for us scientifically? And on this 250th anniversary of America, I think we need to remind ourselves. Nowadays, it's become very fashionable to criticize America. Too many people just don't like the fact that the US is the most powerful country on earth today, and in fact the most powerful country ever. But we need to look at the achievements, especially the scientific achievements of the US, and how they've been put to good use to really appreciate what the Americans have done for us. Now, this video is similar to other videos I've done on the incredible achievements of the British and Jewish scientists, two other groups who are generally greatly underappreciated nowadays. Now, it's going to be a bit different to those because people don't actually know much about the incredible achievements of the Brits or the Jews and various others, but they do understand that the US is at the forefront of science. So this is more about getting people to appreciate what they already know.
Let's see.
Talking of the Brits, I think it's fair to say that the British are actually ahead of the Americans, or were ahead, in basic scientific discovery. Things like discovering all the building blocks of matter, electrons, protons, neutrons, atoms, and then things like Newton's laws of motion, which describes the motion of anything bigger than an atom, and incredible medical discoveries such as antiseptics, antibiotics, and vaccines. Fundamental science. The Brits were ahead, but they cheated. Those dastardly British. Because they were actually there much earlier than the Americans. So while the British were inventing steam engines and the laws of electromagnetism, the Americans were expanding the Western frontier and building a country. I think it's fair to say that the Americans did not become technologically dominant, certainly not before the 1930s, but really hit their form in the Second World War and immediately after. And the contribution of the Americans has been more in the sense of technological and engineering progress than basic discovery. They've applied those basic laws of physics, chemistry, and biology like no other country. Let's start with quite an important example.
Let's see. Be interesting.
Electricity. And everything associated with it. The AC power systems that we use in power stations throughout your house was pioneered by the likes of George Westinghouse, who also invented dozens of other things, including train air brakes, which is not a bad invention, I think. His great rival, Thomas Alva Edison, invented, of course, light bulbs and was partially responsible for electrocuting elephants to prove that George Westinghouse's AC system was dangerous. That's an interesting story. That a great American competition spirit pushing things ahead. Then we have the Serbian who did his great work in America, none other than Nikola Tesla, who invented AC motors, which are quite important, and developed radio communications. And while we're on the subject of Tesla, how about Elon Musk of South African origin, who's responsible for the world's first genuinely viable electric car. Then the Scottish-American Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the phone. You might be getting the drift here. You might be a smart person, but you go to America to make things happen. Then there is Joseph Henry, who invented the electric relay. It's a mechanism for using a small current to switch or turn on a bigger current. It's utterly essential for electrical systems in power stations and even in your car, even today. And to prove that Americans aren't just about doing applied stuff, we have the incredible Robert Millikan, who did a remarkable experiment to try to find the charge on an electron, the fundamental unit of charge. So if you ever use electricity or
Which we
any of
do.
those
Every
things,
day. We're
then
using
you
it
better
right now.
thank the Americans.
So thank you to those who created electricity. Otherwise, we would not be doing our content as we speak.
Yeah, we
and not
wouldn't
be
have
able
light.
to
We
entertain
wouldn't have the fan on.
my gaming. I wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
play my games.
Exactly.
Damn.
Yeah.
The next one's an example of why we
Nuclear,
should be
yeah.
especially
The
thankful
atom
to the
bomb.
Americans and their top tech prominence. And that's the development of nuclear technology, and I mean the atom bomb. And I know what you're thinking.
There's
Well,
a
it
film
wasn't
on this,
exactly
right?
a good thing, was it?
What's that film called? The guy with the Peaky Blinders actor, Thomas Shelby. He's in that film. Ugh,
Oh, the new film.
it's not new, but he's
a scientist in
yeah,
that film.
that.
I know
I
what you're
forgot
talking
what it's
about.
called, though.
Yeah, but I don't know what the name
I'm
of
sure
the
you
film.
guys know about it.
To develop the atom bomb. Is it something really to be proud of? Well, yes, it actually is, especially when you consider the alternative, that some other horrible dictator like Hitler invents it first. The American man had...
From that movie, I didn't watch it all, but I got like an understanding of it. I believe there was a race between Americans and other countries of who's going to make the atom bomb first. They were racing because obviously whoever develops it
Well,
successfully.
who came up with the idea of the atom bomb?
It's all in that movie. They give a proper breakdown.
Maybe we should watch it tonight.
It's a really good film. Like it was so big in cinema, and it's the story behind it.
Yeah.
project rested on the basic research, mostly done in Britain, in fact, but turbocharged by Jewish scientists who were thrown out by Hitler. The Manhattan Project epitomised everything good about America, incredible industrial capacity. The expertise came from everywhere, where by anyone, the can-do attitude made not just one type of bomb, but two different type of bombs, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and they did it in just a few years, where other countries like the Germans didn't even get close. And what did they then do? Yes, they used it to finish the war in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they saved millions of Americans and Japanese lives by avoiding a horrible attritional war. Now, I don't want to go into the argument whether that was right or wrong, because I want to dwell on what happened in the years after
I don't think that should be
Hiroshima.
invented, to be honest.
America was in a position at that stage like no other country had ever been in history. They could obliterate any other country because they alone had the bomb.
But loads of countries have nukes now, I believe.
I don't think any country should have a nuke.
Nah, but yeah, if you can go back in time, you could turn around and say if nukes didn't exist, the world would be safer in a sense. But then the American person will argue if we didn't have a nuke, and a terrorist organization managed to develop a nuke, they'll use that on us and it'll be the end of the West.
But this is what I'm trying to say. Who came up with the idea of a nuclear bomb?
I don't know.
So...
Yeah. Well, they developed it through... he said it was the Jewish scientists pushed it forward.
Oh.
So that's what he said earlier. But some of it was done in, the research was done in Britain, they said. So I don't know. You guys will know better than us. Would love an explanation. If I Google it now, I'll be sitting there for 10 minutes on Google. So let's not.
It wasn't Hitler. Can you imagine if Stalin had had it? Can you imagine if somebody like Genghis Khan had had the bomb? And what did America do? Despite having the biggest trump card in the history of the world, it did not threaten anybody with obliteration. It helped to rebuild Japan and Germany and Europe. So God bless America for that. The rest of the world was incredibly lucky for the Americans' tech dominance and the people and the American politics.
Let's see what else.
The next one's obvious, but we need to mention it just so we appreciate it, and that's the computer revolution.
Microsoft.
Now, of course, everybody's heard about, of course they invented the internet, developed search engines, AI, all the recent stuff, but I want to concentrate on something less known but utterly fundamental at the bottom of a computer, and that is the invention of the transistor.
Yeah.
Right, what's
Three
that?
layers of silicon. The invention of the transistor by John Bardeen, Walter Brattain, and William Shockley in 1947. It's an electronically controlled switch and it's the primary building block of every computer.
Oh, wow.
I
A
never
modern
knew that.
CPU in a computer now has billions, maybe tens or even hundreds of billions of transistors. And it turns out it was actually the British who were the first to invent the electronic computer in World War II, but they had to use huge electronic valves as the switches. You can literally put hundreds of billions of transistors just for one of the old valves.
Wow.
If the only thing the Americans ever did for the world was to invent the transistor, it's far more than almost any country has ever done.
The transistor.
So now let's talk biotechnology, and we're only going to scan over perhaps the most important ones, though you could argue with this. Of course, the American scientists and companies have really shaped the biotechnology industry. We have things like the invention of recombinant DNA, which is essentially a method to cut pieces of DNA using bacteria as factories. Then we have the so-called PCR reaction, the polymerase chain reaction, where you can actually make millions of exact copies of a particular part of DNA in just a few hours. Think of it as a molecular copying machine. It revolutionized forensics, ancestry tracing, and of course medical testing for diseases.
Ancestry tracing. That is American made. That's interesting.
Oh, very interesting.
Didn't know that.
Including COVID, as it turns out. Then you have the CRISPR gene editing system. So this is essentially a system of molecular scissors, so you can cut and change sequences of DNA extremely precisely. And this is now being used in research cures for genetic disorders and to improve crop resilience. And we must remember the remarkable invention of genetically modified crops. Yes, I know that a lot of people don't like this, but it's been a revolution in terms of food production. Genetically modified crops is feeding billions.
Why do people not like it? I wonder.
I think because it's not 100% natural. I came across a post the other day on social media saying how, for example, a carrot used to look like as opposed to what it looks like now. How a strawberry used to look like as opposed to what it looks like now. Some of them were very different.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, the world, there's a lot of people in the world now, population-wise. And there's things that are happening, like droughts. Like, look at the videos we watch where there's, like, even in the UK, we're going through a drought and now farms are really suffering. I understand why they might need to genetically modify to help grow to meet, feeding people. But at the same time, I get it. If you could keep it 100% natural, of course, that's going to be better and healthier, right? But I get both arguments. It's interesting.
Millions of people around the world. And of course, we have the minor invention of the airplane by the Wright brothers. But actually, the US has been at the forefront of aeronautical development right from the beginning. And it's not just the theoretical and technical development, it's the ability to build them cheaply and strong. Planes like the DC-3, the Boeing 707, the Boeing 747, and the safety systems that are inside those aircraft. Next time you fly, thank the Americans, even if you're flying on an Airbus, because much of those aircraft and the technology behind them is US developed.
They've done so much.
Now, the next one is something that is not appreciated, especially nowadays. And that's the ability to extract oil and gas actually out of the ground. Because after all, where would we be without oil? And the ability to produce vast quantities of plant food, carbon dioxide, and as a side product, power our cars and our aeroplanes and things like that. And the Americans were always at the forefront of oil extraction. It's actually an incredible technological feat to be able to suck black sludge or gas from 1,000 feet below the surface. The Americans were there right at the beginning. Edwin Drake, who was the first to have a commercial oil rig in Pennsylvania. But then there's the marine offshore oil rig. So you have the likes of Alden Dock Laborde, who revolutionized deep sea drilling by creating mobile oil rigs. And then much more recently, we have fracking. The crazy people hate fracking for gas. They really should have used a different name. I think people would have liked it much more. It's essentially underground. There are vast quantities of hydrocarbon gas and oil, which are locked up in very, very hard rock and very, very difficult to get out. The easy stuff is actually just a small percentage of all the gas that's in the ground. And you have to microscopically just put little cracks into that rock and the gas flows. And this development of fracking has allowed the US to become a dominant hydrocarbon source, which has already unlocked huge reserves of this wonderful material. It was George Wilson's team who successfully pioneered the injection of water, sand, and some very benign chemicals, combined with being able to drill horizontally, and they made it cheap and easy to pull vast amounts of energy out of the ground. Aren't the Americans wonderful? And on the subject of oil, we need to conclude with what many would regard as the greatest invention in history. I'm sure you can guess what it is.
The car?
The American small block V8.
Oh, V8.
Oh.
Yeah.
God, I love that noise.
Big.
Okay, well, I've run out of time, and I'm sure many of you think...
That last one was worth the wait.
Yeah.
Guys, yeah, so it seems like America is very responsible for a lot of today's modern way of living.
Yeah.
Out here in the West, for sure. Guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Very knowledgeable. Fats, any last words for the team?
Have a beautiful day. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow. Peace out.
Bye.